reading for today is a poem. Surprise. Called Friendship. And it was written by Ella Mary Fling Weatherby, who is Grace Molnick's grandmother. She wrote it either in it looks like the early 1900s. Friendship. Friendship is the golden chain that binds our hearts together in truth and love united in calm or stormy weather. Friendship stands for happiness, for working hand in hand to help our fellow travelers all over this broad land. One of the links you know, love for friend and love for foe. Another link is truth, which means we are sincere in all our work for others, both far away and near. So buckle on the armor, let friendship be your guide, and let the golden rule with you, dear friend, abide. And now I invite you to share poems that you brought. If you have a poem and would like to read it, please come up and do that. If you'd like to have someone else read it, we have people willing to do that. And I would like to begin with Steve Kish.
This is a poem by Jenny Joseph. It's the poster in my house, so I brought the whole thing. When I'm old, an old woman, I shall wear purple with a red hat, which doesn't go and doesn't suit me. I shall spend my pension on brandy and summer gloves and satin sandals and say, we've no money for butter. I shall sit down on the pavement when I'm tired, pardon me, and gobble up samples in shops, press alarm bells, and run my stick along the public railings, and make up for the sobriety of my youth. I shall go out in my slippers in the rain and pick the flowers in other people's gardens and learn to spit. You can wear terrible shirts and grow more fat and eat 3 pounds of sausages at a go, or only bread and pickles for a week, and hoard pens and pencils and beer mats and things in boxes. But now we must have clothes that keep us dry and pay our rent and not swear in the street, and set a good example for the children. We must have friends to dinner and read the papers. But maybe I ought to practice a little now, so people who know me are not too shocked and surprised when suddenly I'm old and start to wear purple.
Peg, I know you have a poem. And Donna?
This is by Jack Prelutsky in a book called Something Big Has Been Here. And he's sort of in the category of Shel Silverstein, who wrote The Sick that you saw earlier. This is called My Mother Made a Meatloaf. Not too serious, you can tell already. My mother made a meatloaf that provided much distress. She tried her best to serve it, but she met with no success. Her sharpest knife was powerless to cut a single slice, and her efforts with a cleaver failed completely to suffice. She whacked it with a hammer, and she smacked it with a brick, but she couldn't face that meatloaf. It remained without a nick. I decided I would help her and assailed it with a drill, but the drill made no impression, though I worked with all my skill. We chipped at it with chisels, but we didn't make a dent. It appeared my mother's meatloaf was much harder than cement. Then we set upon that meatloaf with a hatchet and an axe, but that meatloaf stayed unblemished and withstood our fierce attacks. We borrowed bows and arrows, and we fired at close range. It didn't make a difference, for that meatloaf didn't change. We beset it with a blowtorch, but we couldn't find a flaw. And we both were flabbergasted when it broke the power saw. We hired a hippopotamus to trample it around, but that meatloaf was so mighty that it simply stood its ground. Now, we manufacture meatloaves by the millions all year long. They are famous in construction, building houses tall and strong. He did another really short one that I always do at around Valentine's Day, and it is simply, I love you, I love you, I love you divine. Please give me your bubble gum, you're sitting on mine.
I have a few out of the book calling Falling Up by Shel Silverstein. Noisy day. Let's have one day for girls and boyses when we can make the grandest noises. Screech, scream, holler, and yell. Buzz a buzzer, clang a bell. Sneeze, hiccup, whistle, shout. Laugh until your lungs wear out. Toot a whistle, kick a can, bang a spoon against a pan. Sing, yodel, beat a drum. Blow a horn, beat a drum. Rattle a window, slam a door, scrape a rake across the floor. Use a drill, drive a nail, turn the hose into the garbage pail. Shout yahoo, hooray, hurrah, turn up the music all the way. Try to bounce your bowling ball, ride a skateboard up the wall. Chomp your food with a smack and a slurp, chew, chomp, hiccup, burp. One day a year do all of these things, but the rest of the days be quiet, please. The voice. There is a voice inside of you that whispers all day long, I feel that it's right for me, I know that this is wrong. No teacher, preacher, parent, friend, or wise man can decide what's right for you, just listen to the voice that speaks inside. And I have just one more. It's called Bad Cold, so I thought it was fitting because I have a bad sinus infection. This cold is too much for my shirt sleeves, so go get me a Kleenex and fast. I sniffle and wheeze, and I'm ready to sneeze, and I don't know how long I can last. Achoo, it's too wet for a Kleenex, so bring me a handkerchief quick. It's achoo, no joke. Now the handkerchief's soaked, hey, a dish towel might just do the trick. Achoo, it's too much for a bath towel, there's never had been such a cold. I'd be better off with the big tablecloth. No, bring me up that flag off the pole. Achoo, bring me the clothes from the closet. Achoo, get the sheets from the bed. The drapes off the window, the rugs off the floors to soak up this cold in my head. Achoo, hurry down to the circus and ask if they'll lend you a tent. You say they said yes, here it comes. Lord be blessed. Here it is. Achoo, there it went.
When I was in elementary school, I would say 5th grade, our teacher made us memorize poems, long ones sometimes, like The Wreck of the Hesperus by, was it Henry Wadsworth Longfellow? And each of us had to stand up in front of everybody and say our poem, which gave the teacher kind of a half a day off. Because all she had to do was stay in the back and just say next. So. But after we realized she was going to make us do this, it began to be a little bit of fun. It was kind of fun and a challenge. And some of the poems that she read that we thought were really cool were written by James Whitcomb Riley. Peg knows James Whitcomb Riley, yeah. He was an Indiana poet who was kind of their poet laureate for a while, and he wrote what I would call poems of the people. They weren't flowery, they weren't wordy. He spoke as many rural people in southern Indiana, southern Ohio, where I lived, the way we spoke, leaving sounds off, putting sounds on, not knowing the difference. So this was my favorite that she read, and she always read it around Halloween. And we did beg to please memorize this one. It's called Little Orphaned Annie. Have you heard it? Okay, here we go. Little orphaned Annies come to our house to stay and wash the cups and saucers and brush the crumbs away and shoo the chickens off the porch and dust the hearth and sweep and make the fire and bake the bread and earn her board and keep. And all us other children, when the supper things is done, we set around the kitchen fire and has the mostest fun, a-listening to the witch tales that Annie tells about. And the goblins will get you if you don't watch out. Once there was a little boy who wouldn't say his prayers, and when he went to bed at night, away upstairs, his mammy heard him holler, and his pappy heard him bawl, and when they turned the covers down, he wasn't there at all. And they seeked him in the rafter room, and cubbyhole, and press, and seeked him up the chimney flue, and everywheres, I guess. But all they ever found was just his pants and roundabout. And the goblins will get you if you don't watch out. And one time, a little girl would always laugh and grin and make fun of everyone and all her blood and kin. And once, that was a word I always said, and once when there was company and old folks was there, she mocked them and she shocked them and she said she didn't care. And this as she kicked her heels and turned to run and hide, two great big black things a-standing by her side. And they snatched her through the ceiling, for she knowed what she's about. And the goblins will get you if you don't watch out. And little orphaned Annie says, when the blaze is blue, and the lamp wick sputters, and the wind goes woo, and you hear the crickets quit, and the moon is gray, and the lightning bugs and dew is all squinched away, you better mind your parents and your teachers fond and dear, and cherish them that loves you, and dry the orphan's tear, and help the poor and needy ones that clusters all about, or the goblins will get you if you don't watch out.
This poem was shared with me by a good friend. It's political in nature, so I apologize in advance if it offends anyone. I hope it doesn't. But just the events of recent, years actually, make this, I think, pretty appropriate. It's after the style of Dr. Seuss, which was one of our kids' favorites. I do not like President 45. I do not like his orange beehive. I do not like his passing blame. His shouts of fake news are so lame. I do not like his Russian spies. I do not like his speeches of inflated size. I do not like his cabinet of crooks or the current way our country looks. I do not like his racist chants or how he grabs a woman's pants. I do not like it, not at all. I'm watching as the poll numbers fall. I do not want for years to pass. We're sick of waiting. Impeach him. Now, I know it can get a little bit depressing, so there's another little short, it's not really a poem, it's a saying, but it's written by Grandma Lewis, who founded a a restaurant chain in Florida called, it's in the town where Gretchen's mom lives. It's called the Florida Cracker Restaurant. This is a keep it positive. As you travel down life's path, always keep your eye on the donut and not on the hole. We need to keep that in mind, don't we? The third one I want to read is written by Zadie. I know some of you know who Zadie is. Margaret Smith Johns, who's a member of our church, Carol's sister, Debbie's aunt, Ken's mom. She was a friend to many of us. Seek out the day. Rise from thy bed and seek out the day, for it shall not come again. The trees cry out, I am here. Come sit in my shade. Hear the birds in my branches. Come close and bond with family. They are here giving you love and understanding. Share the time with that special someone. Tell them of your inner longings. Walk with trust and understanding. Let a spiritual journey be your guide, and have a peace in your heart, for tomorrow and tomorrow we will all make it together.
I'll be reading Our Deepest Fear by Marianne Williamson. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine, as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it is in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we're liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others.
I read this on behalf of Chris because she can't do the stairs. And this seems to be a Shel Silverstein day. So this is another one. I made myself a snowball as perfect as could be. I thought I'd keep it as a pet and let it sleep with me. I made it some pajamas and a pillow for its head. Then last night it ran away, but first it wet the bed.
I found this short poem in a little collection by a man named Joseph Cornell, and he's one of the world's leading nature educators. First, he has something to say about the poem. Love is expansive and includes everything as its own. Reflect on the meaning of the following poem, Birds of the Air. As you say each line, project your thoughts of goodwill and love to all. Birds of the air. The birds of the air are my brothers. All flowers are my sisters. The trees are my friends. All living creatures, mountains and streams, I take unto you my care. For this green earth is our mother. Hidden in the sky is the spirit above. I share one life with all who are here. To everyone I give my love. To everyone I give my love.
As most of you know, I take care of Maggie every day, and she brings this book to me at least twice a day. It probably isn't considered a poem in Anne's opinion, because she knows them all. This is a Sesame Street young readers, and it's rhyming, so to me, rhyming is reading, and rhyming is poetry, and I'm not a reader, and it just feels good to be reading to Anne, reading to Maggie, because my parents did not read to me, and that's why I'm not really good at this. But it says, bubbles, bubbles on my nose, bubbles, bubbles on my toes. Bubbles, bubbles in my hair, bubbles, bubbles everywhere. Bubbles, bubbles float on top, bubbles, bubbles pop, pop, pop. Bubbles, bubbles fly so high, count 1, 2, 3 as they go by. Bubbles, bubbles are so fun, bubbles, bubbles are for everyone. And I'm hoping soon, Maggie knows all these body parts, but she can't say them yet. Hopefully before she's 3, because her mom didn't talk until she was 3.
John has asked me to read a poem that he wrote back in August of 2015, and it's entitled Silence. Remembering at last that events are unreal, just flying to nowhere, dream tripping on thought, landed face buried in the breast of knowing. The silence is endless. Words run aground on the shore of being. The inner becomes the outer inner. Peace dawns in the stillness of the moment.
I'd like to read you a poem from Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein. And I'd like you to think about some of the challenges our country's facing with recycling. Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout would not take the garbage out. Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout would not take the garbage out. She scoured the pans. She scoured the pots and scraped the pans, candied the yams and spiced the hams, and though her daddy would scream and shout, she simply would not take the garbage out. So it piled up to the ceilings, coffee grounds, potato peelings, brown bananas, rotten peas, chunks of sour cottage cheese. It filled the can. It covered the floor. It cracked the window and blocked the door with raw bacon rinds and chicken bones, drippy ends of ice cream cones, prune pits, peach pits, orange peel, gloppy glumps of cold oatmeal, pizza crusts and withered greens, soggy beans and tangerines, crusts of black burned buttered toast, grizzly bits of beefy roasts. The garbage rolled on down the hall. It raised the roof. It broke the wall. Greasy napkins, cookie crumbs, globs of gooey bubble gum, cellophane from green bologna, rubbery, blubbery macaroni, peanut butter, caked and dry, curdled milk and crusts of pie, moldy melons, dried up mustard, eggshells mixed with lemon custard, cold French fries and rancid meat, yellow lumps of cream of wheat. At last the garbage reached so high that it finally touched the sky, and all the neighbors moved away, and none of her friends would come and play. And finally, Sarah Cynthia Stout said, "Okay, I'll take the garbage out. But then, of course, it was too late. The garbage reached across the state from New York to the Golden Gate. And there, in the garbage she did hate, poor Sarah met an awful fate that I cannot right now relate, because the hour is much too late. But children, remember Sarah Stout, and always take the garbage out.
One of the many things I really like about this congregation is when we do a participatory service. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Shaw Silverstein. He was our man of the hour. Please rise as you're willing and able to sing hymn 203, All Creatures of the Earth and